Struggle with dry roasted turkeys? I'm Marcy McDonald with Pacific Northwest Suburban Homesteading, and I may have a solution for you. Scott, the homestead spouse, brines our turkeys, and they come out delicious and juicy.
First step is actually making the brine. So we're going to be using some vegetable broth. I have a gallon of this, 4 quarts, which is going to go into our pot here on the stove. To that, I'm going to be adding 1 cup of kosher salt, a half a cup of brown sugar, a tablespoon of black peppercorns, 1.5 teaspoons of allspice, and 1.5 teaspoons of dried ginger. The stock we're using for this is actually New Season's store brand. And it's a vegetable stock. It's the only vegetable stock I've been able to find so far that doesn't have mushrooms in it. And since my wonderful wife is allergic to mushrooms, we don't want to brine a turkey in something she's allergic to. The longest part of this is actually putting the stock in the pot. Now, if you're doing a bigger turkey, you'll want to do more brine. The idea behind brining a turkey is to completely submerge it in a salt water solution to get the moisture into the turkey and the salt into the turkey and make it taste better. Keep it from getting dry. Sometimes these containers have to have a little bit of help in opening. We'll go ahead and put that on high heat. We want to dissolve our spices and other ingredients into the broth. I'm using a low sodium broth on this because I'm putting a cup of regular salt into it, so it doesn't need the extra salt that sometimes comes in the broths. Key ingredient, kosher salt, 1 cup. And then I got a half cup of brown sugar, my ginger, my black peppercorns. I did not crush those, we want them whole for this. Same with the allspice. And then we just stir this together, breaking up the salt and the brown sugar, and let that dissolve into the vegetable stock. Let that come up into heat to a light boil. Once you bring it up to a boil, you take the temperature off and then let it cool down to room temperature. And then you could either refrigerate it and use it later, or you can go ahead and do what we're going to do, which is once it hits room temperature, we're going to put the turkey in our cooler and start the brining process. I like to brine them for at least 24 hours. I've brined as much as for 36 before. Starting to boil. There we go. As it starts up with the whole bubbling routine. What we're doing with this is we're just infusing all the flavors from the spices that we added to the broth into the broth and making sure that all the sugar and the salt gets completely dissolved into our brine. And I'm just going to kill the heat and pull it off the burner to let it cool. Let that drop to room temperature before you put your turkey in it. I want this to cool down a little faster, so I'm just going to come out here and set it on my griddle and let it cool that way. It'll cool down a little bit faster than if I just leave it sitting on the kitchen counter, because it's a little cool out here. Right now it's 49 degrees. Another thing I like to do with my turkey, in addition to brining it, I like the flavor that a good herb-infused butter rub provides to it. So what I've got here, I've got a couple of sprigs of rosemary, some thyme, and some sage. And I'm just going to chop this up, and I'm going to mix it up with a stick of butter, and then let that sit in the refrigerator overnight, and then I'll rub the turkey down with it tomorrow morning. And rosemary is the easiest part of this because you just pull the stem right off. Love the smell of the fresh herbs. I remember when I tried to do all of this in one day a few years ago. All of the butter making and all that, Don't do that. It's a very bad idea. It takes a lot longer to strip thyme leaves from stems than you think it does.
So this works better with fresh herbs as opposed to using dried, correct?
Absolutely. Especially when you're making an herb butter like what I'm going to be doing. The flavors are stronger and you get just more of a fresh flavor for it. I have done this with dried herbs and it worked okay. If all you've got's dried, then go with dried. You can buy a paste at the store that's thyme or garlic or what have you that's already been basically pre-processed like this. I imagine that would work pretty well. I haven't tried that yet. Okay, the sage is relatively easy. I don't want the bigger stems, but the littler stems are okay. So I'm just gonna snap the leaves off at the base of the stem. Some people don't like a lot of sage. I'm kind of a medium sage guy. I like a decent amount of sage, so I put some in the butter and then I'll actually add more to the cavity of the bird when I do my baking tomorrow. So I got the herbs based up here. Got most of the stems removed. One of the reasons that I do this particular step in the operation is I like the flavor of the herbs on the skin of my turkey. And if you just put them on the skin without something to hold them there, they don't stay. You have to have a binder of some kind to put them on there. I like butter because butter has its own flavor. Some people have used other things for their binders, but I use butter. There we go. That's much better. So to help facilitate this a little bit, I'm going to take my stick of butter, which is pretty close to room temperature, and I'm actually going to cut this into chunks so it's a little bit easier to work. Almost the right temperature. It's just a little cool still, but that we'll solve that by working it a little bit. Get the butter chunks broken up a little bit. Once we've got it to our consistency where we can actually work it a little bit, and we'll add our herbs. May seem a bit time intensive and labor intensive, but trust me, it's worth it. It's got the look, the consistency that I want it to look. Get the herbs all cut in there. And now we need to store it. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. A lot of people like wrapping it in cellophane and making a tube out of it. Since I'm not going to be cutting this and spreading it on anything, I just need to be able to work with the hands tomorrow. When I put it on the turkey, I'm actually just going to put this in a Ziploc bag, pull the air out of it, and then finish the last bit of the massaging of the compound butter in the bag. So I got myself a little Ziploc here. I'm going to take my lump of butter with the herbs all in it, drop it right in the bag. Make sure I get all the tasty, buttery goodness from my working bowl. And into my bag. Butter down the bottom of the bag. I'm going to temporarily seal it. We're going to seal it again here in a minute. I'm just going to flatten it with my hand and finish the last of the working of this butter. Just like that. And getting the herbs all worked in there. Once we've got it kind of where I want it, I'm gonna work all the butter towards the bottom of the bag. There we go. And give the bag a seal. And stick it in the fridge for tomorrow. One of the cool things about doing it this way is that at the end of the day, when I actually break this out tomorrow morning, it'll be flatter, so it'll take less time to come to room temperature, and it'll be easier to work onto and into the skin of my bird. So our brine has cooled off to the point that it's just a little bit above room temperature, but that's good enough. The tools I'm going to use for this is a dedicated cooler. This is a 5-gallon drinks cooler. I bought this about 10, 15 years ago. This is the only thing I use this cooler for, is brining turkeys. The rest of the time it sits in the garage. Every year I bring it out. I do a nice wash on it so it's nice and clean on the inside. And then the very first thing we do is we take our fully cooled brine and just pour that right into the bucket. Make sure you get all the tasty little bits out of there. To that, I'm going to add 1 gallon of well-iced water. This is to make sure that it's the right temperature to keep the bird safe while it's going through the brining process. I have removed the internals from the turkey. That's really the only prep I've had to do to this. Just, thaw them out, remove the insides. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna take your turkey, you wanna put it breast side down into the brine and make sure it gets fully submerged into the brine. If you have some problems with your turkey popping its head up out of the brine, you can take a gallon-sized Ziploc bag with some ice water in it and just put it down on top of the turkey to hold it in place. Then we'll just put our lid back on it, and we're going to set this someplace cool until we're ready to take it out and start the cooking process tomorrow. Like I said earlier, I like to do this for 24 to 36 hours. You can do it for as little as 8 to 10 and still get good results, but the longer brine it, the better the flavors will be. As far as these, I'm sure you all know what you can do with these. For me, I'm going to stick them in the fridge. So we got ourselves 1 brined bird. This is the hardest part of doing this, is transferring him into the roasting. Actually, what I'm gonna do, I need to rinse him off a little bit before we do this, because otherwise it'll be a little too salty. Trick I learned a while ago. Transfer him to the lid. And just take the whole thing in here.
Oh my God,
Other way, yeah. And then we're just gonna give him a bit of a rinse down. We're using the cooler lid because I know it's 100% clean, because I cleaned it before we did this whole process. And it's been cold the entire time. Give them a bit of a rinse out. Bring them. Sometimes they get a little too salty. You can leave the brine on them. Rinse there. There we go. This is where I think it's very helpful to have an extra set of hands. And then pull.
And you always need it.
And drop. Nope. And rotate. There we go.
Onion's ready.
Awesome.
Here's your onion. And you want to rough cut your.
Perfect. So I'm going to take 1 rough cut onion.
Let's take the board and scoop it where you want it. Oh, you can tuck it in.
This is the fun part. A lot of people use dressing or stuffing in their turkeys. You're never 100% certain that your dressing's going to get done if you do it that way. But at the same time, it puts a lot of flavor in your food. So what I do is I stuff it with onions and carrots and celery and some of my turkey spices, which is thyme and rosemary, and bay leaf and sage, so that we have a nice flavorfully stuffed turkey without having to worry about whether the dressing is actually properly cooked. I'm going to take and stuff a little bit in the front as well. All right. So next up is the celery and carrots.
And I'm just about to cut those up now. So you just want them rough cut, like
just rough cut. Yep, just rough cut. This is just for flavoring.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Here's one specifically.
You end up with more vegetables than you have actually need for. You just put them in the bottom of the pan because they'll go into the gravy later. Be like a giant roast. I'm using an onion and a half, or about 3/4 of an onion, and 2 stalks of celery, and 2 stalks of two carrots for this 10-pound bird. Give it a good stuff.
I'll just leave them on the ground.
Yep.
It won't hurt.
Just leave them all around because it won't hurt.
Hurt it.
Yeah, just toss them in there. So I'm gloving up here for 2 reasons. One, always good to have clean hands when you're playing with food, and gloves are a great way to do that. The other bit is after I put some of these herbs in and around the turkey, then I'm gonna break out that compound butter we made yesterday and rub it all over the turkey. And I personally hate the way butter feels on my hands, so I'm gonna use gloves. So we got some sage, some more sage, we got some nice little thyme sprigs we're gonna stick in there. We usually do much bigger turkeys because we usually host a lot more people, but we have a relatively small crowd today. And I bought the same amount of spices I usually buy for like the whole family.
14, 15 pounds.
14, 15, 25-pound turkey for a 10-pound turkey. So go figure. We're gonna have a nice aromatically seasoned turkey there. So a little bit of this on the front here. This side, on that side. If you need to, you can actually use butcher's twine to tie them together, but I think you'll be fine today. All right, so the next bit is the compound butter. We made this yesterday. This has got those same herbs that we just put in. What I'm gonna do with this is I'm just gonna spread it because it's been sitting on the counter long enough to thaw out. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to squeeze it out of my little plastic bag here and spread it on my turkey and then give it a good rub in because I like the flavor that a butter rub turkey has, but I also like the flavor of the herbs. So this is the best way of getting the whole batch together. So what I'm doing with this here is I'm just giving it a good massage in. I probably didn't get the turkey quite dry enough yet. We're gonna just massage our butter onto the turkey. I actually got the right amount of butter for the turkey because I actually did 1 stick of butter for this 10-pounder as opposed to the 2 sticks that I usually do for the 20-pounder plus ones that we do traditionally. When I made the compound butter yesterday, I neglected to put in the garlic powder. So that's what we're gonna do next. The first thing I'm gonna do is get rid of my gloves.
I recorded this 2 years ago. Since then, I made a video with my sister Jen who showed us a better way to butter your turkey. Check the description for a link for the full video.
So you peel that skin back away from the carcass. There's just a membrane and strip that back. It's a little bit harder. There's like a stronger membrane that kind of goes between the 2 breasts. Just get your fingers in there. It's a messy thing. Cannot be squeamish. We'll take this out and I'll put it back in. Although I never go by those timers because they have been known to fail. Start out with the legs just because they're right here. And I just take this and I just work it in under the skin on all the meat. It's not pretty, it's messy as all get out, but it sure makes for a good bird. You take the skin and you can roll the skin or rub it. You can pull some of that flavoring down under the skin where your fingers can't quite reach. So that makes it easy and nice. So that's probably pretty good. I still have some left that I'm just gonna rub on the outside of the skin, flavor that outside of the skin. Get all this goodness off of my fingers. So that's a lot. That would be a lot to waste right down the sink. So I'm just gonna kind of, there we go.
One of our close friends gifted us with some homemade garlic powder for Christmas. She actually took whole cloves of garlic and dehydrated them and then ground them up. And I'm just gonna add just a little sprinkling of garlic to the top of this guy. Some people don't use garlic in their turkeys. I use garlic in everything. So just a little sprinkling there. Now I currently have the oven set to 350, but I need to change that. And I need to set this to 425 degrees for 15 minutes minimum. Take a look at the skin, see how it's browning, then readjust it down to 350 or 325 for the rest of the cook, depending on the size of your turkey. This guy's probably gonna be 325. We'll see what the temperature is like. Close it up, let it cook. Take a couple of readings at different spots. Actually, he might be well overdone. Oh, that's... Yeah, he's actually, he was done a half an hour ago.
So, not quite the perfect demonstration of a perfect execution of turkey making. It is, however, a very common occurrence. Check much earlier than you think it will be ready. It is much better to check several times before the turkey has reached the correct internal temperature than to have an overcooked, dried out bird. It is easy to have this happen when you're juggling the many side dishes and general chaos of a big holiday meal. We were lucky, and it was delicious and not too dry. Gravy solves a lot of problems, though. Best wishes on your own turkey roasting. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, be curious, keep an open mind, and never stop learning.